Welcome to I Change the Narrative, a podcast for and about Black men, inspiring, supporting, and empowering Black men and Black boys. This episode of I Change the Narrative is sponsored by So Organic, So Suave, also known as Sauce. Sauce is a luxury hair care and skincare refuge for those with thick hair and melanin-rich skin. From healthy beard growth to top of head hair styling, to an illuminating skincare regimen. Sauce Essentials will naturally enhance your outer appearance to strengthen your inner confidence. Sauce invites you to accept the authenticity and real self-care and embrace your best. You can find Sauce's award-winning grooming essentials online at sossd.co. Again, that's sossd.co. You can also follow Sauce on Instagram for the latest in hair and product news and updates. Elevate your grooming with Sauce today at sossd.co. So today's topic is hip hop therapy. Before we start the conversation, I want to ask our guests to briefly tell us about yourself and the work that you're involved in that lends itself to the topic or the lived experience. We're going to start with Andrew Watkins.
What's up, y'all? My name is Andrew Watkins. I wear a couple hats. I am a pastor in my home church, all the way in the great city, Thomasville, North Carolina, where I've been pastoring for about 12 or 13 years. I also am a licensed clinical social worker. I am dutifully employed at the illustrious North Carolina A&T State University in their counseling center, where I'm providing individual and group therapy. I also have created a support group called The Cipher, which provides support group work to students or any participants. And by doing the group work, we use hip hop as a vehicle to educate our participants about basic mental health concepts. So super excited to be here and looking forward to a dope conversation.
Thank you. Pots and politics.
Peace and blessings to everybody on the panel. My name is Dawood Shahid. I am the owner and CEO of Pots and Politics, which is a cooking hip-hop political show where we make urban dishes, foods that's normally eat in the hood, hood food, as we talk about politics from an urban perspective, from a minority perspective. Hip-hop is definitely the soundtrack and overlay of the cooking show. Also, I am the vice president of Owners Illustrated Magazine, which is also a magazine based on the entrepreneurship of hip-hop artists, ballers, and actresses. It's like a double XL, but a little bit more business style. I'm glad to be here, and it's nice to meet you all.
Thank you. Marcus.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marcus, the Stoic Magwood. I am a child of hip-hop, second generation. I feel like I carry the burden of representing hip-hop because I was a part of it when it was true, before it became a corporate tool. I was out in front of my apartment breakdancing on cardboard. I've been in freestyle battles from here to New York City. I've done stand-up comedy and acting. So I'm here to, be a part of this conversation with you wonderful people, and so that we can keep this thing going and in the process change the narrative and not be a part of this cultural structure that they created for us and took over our way of venting and made money off of it. And then we lost sight of what it really was. Thank you.
Thank you, Marcus. Jamar.
Peace, everyone. Good morning on my side. My name is Jamar Perry. Like Marcus, I'm also kind of a second generation hip hop person. My father grew up in Philadelphia, was a legendary graffiti writer, one of the first in the area. That passed down to me, who started, everything I do, which was built off of hip hop and rapping and writing rhymes since before I could remember until now, where I run an organization based in St. Louis called the Village Path, where we help Black men get free access to mental health services. We wear a bunch of different hats within that, podcasting. And the main thing we do, which is the Village Healing and Writing Circle, where we do check-ins with brothers on a monthly basis, which will be returning in person soon. Within that, hip hop is somewhat involved. Poets, people who write short stories, people who write rhymes and bars still come and share the vulnerable sides through whatever they've created over that month or period. We also have like creative writing storm sessions too. So.
Awesome, guys. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. Music is understood to have a medicinal quality for both the creative and the listener. So hip hop therapy has proven to reduce depression and anxiety, improve emotional expression, expand communication and interpersonal skills, and potentially lift one's self-esteem. So in this conversation, we're discussing how it's used as a therapeutic medium and how it serves as a healing tool for those that work with licensed clinicians or therapists. So my first question to you is, what is hip hop therapy? I first want to hear from our clinicians in the house for what that is.
Does it matter who goes first?
Doesn't matter.
Let's think and reflect back to when they used to say, music itself calms the savage what?
Peace.
So now, with that being said, hip hop itself, the lyrics, the things that are being said on the microphone. Of course, I'm talking about certain types of hip hop because it's different kinds now.
Mm-hmm.
The message used to be what uplifted the people in a therapeutic way because they could relate to the stories that were being told on the microphone. So that, along with the music that they would rap on, which was usually sampled from our parents and grandparents, that familiarity of the music, which reminded us of growing up, those principles that our family taught us at a different day and time, along with the lyrics that they were singing that was being the voice to our people. I'm from the 80s. You used to could put a hip hop tape on and it would just do either two things. Make you want to get up and just dance all your troubles away, which that is therapeutic within itself. Or they used to, kick knowledge on the songs. So put your mind in a certain mindset, ease, peace, answers for things that's going on around you that the music would give you. Hip hop, it's not just the music, it's a lifestyle. Hip hop, the therapy of our people.
Anyone else want to add to that?
Sure. And before I add to that, Jamar, I don't know if you're aware of this, but Philly is the home of one of the first hip hop labels. Everybody thinks it's Sugar Hill, but Pop Heart was started in 1979.
Yep.
And Roxanne Shante, Biz Markie, and all them was on the same label with Steady B, Cool C. Right. And my dad is from Philly, and I would have to go there every summer. And I can remember hearing like my grandmother is from West Philly, 50th Street, and I can remember those old guys talking about LL and Run DMC coming down there and them getting robbed. And it was, hip hop is just, yes, it's therapeutic. It was not always about the crime. And I can speak from my experience. Whenever I would have a rough day, and I would understand that I can express myself through song, it would help. And that's what I would do. I would make songs about when my heart would be broken. And then I could understand what I was going through and then continue to listen to it and learn from it and then let my friends hear it. And then they can learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what hip hop was for me. It was about camaraderie and just working through pain.
Mm. Andrew or Jamar, what is hip hop therapy?
I'll just jump in real quick. All of the content that everybody has offered thus far is spot on. If we think about it from a academic perspective,
Right.
that's a gentleman by the name of Ralph Elegant that coined the term hip hop therapy, if I'm not mistaken. And essentially, he used hip hop as a vehicle to engage Black and brown clients in treatment. Just kind of recognizing that we oftentimes are averse to your traditional style of therapy, which of course was created by white men and created for white men. So folks like Dr. Elegant decided to use hip hop as a way to connect with clients in a more authentic way. It's transformed over the years and really became a integral part of treatment for a lot of therapists who are looking to find creative ways to connect with their clients. And one of the things that I feel like in Post in Politics mentioned this earlier, every element of hip hop is therapeutic, which I've just kind of been amazed with in my work as a clinician. You think about knowledge and how knowledge represents recognizing your history and using that as fuel and direction for what you do moving forward. Well, the same is true in cognitive behavioral therapy because CBT focuses on our cognitions, understanding your thoughts, how the thoughts of others around you has impacted you, and offering new thoughts or better thoughts that person now can start to incorporate in their everyday life. You look at the graffiti as a form of therapeutic expression, emceeing. Every element is naturally therapeutic, and so that's when I think of hip hop therapy. I think about it from an academic perspective with Dr. Ralph Elegant, but then also just from the root and heart of it. It was naturally therapeutic and how it allowed folks to express themselves honestly and in a healthy way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I'll attack it from a different perspective. Everyone else had amazing ways that they attacked the question. And I'll attack it from the perspective of myself as a youth and someone whose day job is working with predominantly Black youth in a high school setting. So for me, when I was the age of the children I now work for, I don't work with them, I work for them. It was cathartic, when I listened to like Ready to Die, and going through my own trials and tribulations like most teenagers do. I wasn't out selling drugs or even ready to kill myself or any of that stuff, but it was a release in a lot of ways. The music that the kids listen to today, who I see, it is a release for them too in a lot of ways. And it's not for me. The music isn't created for me. Right. I still try to listen to what they listen to because I want to know what's going on. The older you get, the further you get removed. You don't want to be the grumpy old man waving your fist. They're like, you kids and your terrible music.
Yeah.
You did it to us, right? And somebody did it to them, and
right.
On the white culture side, when Elvis came and shook his hips, people was offended. So it's always generational thing, right? But for me, the kids now, it's kind of a therapy for them too. And I talk to them about that all the time. So when they are having a bad day, they might cut on a Rod Wave song, who's like a really emotional rapper of today, or they might cut on a Pooh Shiesty song and turn up, and so from my perspective at that age and their perspective at this age, and the big wide margin of age gap that is, these kids old enough to be my kids, and probably in a few more years even my grandkids, right? Just the release of it. Like, I'm not going to go out and shoot anybody or kill anybody, but I still listen to very violent rap music. I'm a big Griselda fan. Hopefully they aren't going to do the same. I don't. So from a therapeutic perspective, I think it is a release at the very least.
The therapeutic perspective, building on to what you were saying, there's a lot of people who live vicariously through the music. There's a lot of different races and cultures and ethnicities that this music has crossed over to. So it's like, you may not be quote unquote a Negro, but you may want to wonder what their life is like of one, quote unquote. So through the music was how the world got introduced to our culture and way of life. If you get where I'm coming from, just adding on to what Jamar, I feel you 1,000% as far as how the music can be therapeutic and somewhat educational for other cultures and races who have not physically experienced or going to ever live where we're living at, but they can experience through the music. You did.
I also wanted to build on something Jamar said. When people say it's not for you, I disagree. It is for you. This was us. I think we've turned into a society that doesn't want to talk about problems. You just want to sweep them under the rug and come up with some old catchphrase that just encompasses everything. That's not what I was brought up in. We used to fight and then become friends and then say, you know what? You knocked the shit out of me, man. And we become brothers after that. So it is for you.
These are true stories, by the way.
I think some of the music I can remember listening to, and this was a true story, Glory by D Nice. And if any of y'all remember that song, it was about the movie. It was nothing negative. But my dad heard Damn and said, oh, you're not listening to that up in here, and snatched it. And I'm just like, wow, he actually wasn't even talking about anything. He just said, damn. And I can remember my mom going, I'm tired of hearing this, disrespect your mother, beat up your brother. And I'm like, that's not what they're saying. The rap I hear now, that's what they're saying. And I think we need to talk about that. I think, why are you guys so angry? What's going on? And we might find out a lot of their anger might be from our generation.
Added on to that, just real quick, that's another part of the importance of the music itself being therapeutic. What are the messages being said in these songs? These messages mentally and spiritually affect people, influences people. Music can change the way the whole society moves. Just go back to the 70s for those, or the 80s for those who knew, listen to like Sly and the Family Stones and the messages that they were saying back in those days. These were the songs that we would in the future sample and make hip hop records from. You did?
So my question for you all is, how is hip hop an empowerment tool? Let's think of the men that Jamar works with, the students that Andrew works with, even in your two experiences, Marcus and Dawood. How is it an empowerment tool to Black men?
Cultural competency is so important in therapy because the treatment oftentimes is disconnected from folks' experience.
Yeah.
It's super important to have that level of competency because that'll allow you to be able to develop a relationship with the people that you're working with. And so I think that just on the cultural competency alone, that allows hip hop to be a tool of empowerment, because now when I connect with this 18-year-old who's never done therapy before, I may ask him, hey, what's some of your favorite, who are some of your favorite hip hop artists? And so they may mention some of the artists that Jamar talked about, Pooh Shiesty or NLE Choppa or Rod Wave. And then we can engage in some conversation about these artists, about the content of the music that they create. And I, being a clinician and also being a naturally curious person, can go and actually analyze the lyrics, identify themes about emotional health, and can make connections in the work that I do with that client. So I can use their passion for this artist as a tool of empowerment. That's 10 times more effective because we're talking about something that they're interested in.
Exactly.
And just to add on what Andrew was saying, I think, it's two parts. So I think, for me, seeing my clinician and making sure that he was a Black man is, for lack of a better term, it's empowering to know that he gets the references that I use, right? So when I bring up a paid in full reference, he understands that if I was to go to a white clinician and they don't have any idea what I'm talking about or the references that I'm saying, it's a different vibe, right? You have to explain the movie and explain. So no, he's seen it already. He understands it. He gets it. Now from the second half, to answer your question directly, I would say hip hop for me has been nothing but a positive influence on my life. It's helped me through the bad times. It's made me celebrate the good times and so forth. To quote Biggie, I never thought the hip hop would take it this far. And just being, growing up rapping, that was empowering, being on stages. And you also have to think about the historic aspect of it when it comes to Black males predominantly. We haven't had many spaces to be our authentic selves. In the 80s, it was empowering to see Big Daddy Kane with his full glory and his dark skin and his box. We didn't really see anybody like that beforehand. And Chuck D and KRS One with the wide nose. There were no images like that beforehand. Wow. People had the pride. This is coming off the era of the DeBarges with the light skin and the wavy hair and the who look totally different. And it was empowering to see people who look like me at that early age have power. And then later on, even in going through college and things like that, some people may perceive some music to be negative, like for instance, Young Jeezy. To me, that he was motivational to me. Some people, he might have motivated them to sell dope. To me, he motivated me to get through college. And so on and so on. I feel like it's like a lot today. You was really with the message you're listening to. If you listen to Lil Baby, you might listen to him in one aspect, but another aspect it might be somewhat motivational.
I want to add on to what he's saying because what he just said was very real. Thank you, King, for that look from that point. Now let me just say this right now. When we talking about therapeutic of hip hop and how it affects our people, we can't leave out the fact that you have corporate America now who has its hand in hip hop and tries to control the narrative strongly through the messages of the music. There was a time, and I don't want to offend nobody, so let me say it correctly. I come from where hip hop was first coming out. I was born in the 70s. There was a time when an artist like Lil Nas X would not have been able to reach the type of level of success in the way that he has so quickly. Okay, we're not going to get into defining the artist as much as we're going to look at the music, since we're talking about the therapiness of the music. Now, if we're talking about mental therapy, let's talk about therapy itself is supposed to get our mind, I would like to think, to an uplifted mind state, trying to better your mind. Now, we're using hip hop, we're now using an art form and the music and the melodies and the words that it says. Exactly. Okay? Now, it was a time we used to get all our hip hop from the radio. Shout out to Hot 97, DJ Red Alert, Bobito, Larry, all of the old cats, But now, as we know, we live in a time where we can download. We got our cell phones is where we get our music. So now people are picking the music they want to listen to. But if you just go by what corporate is pushing in social media, you can clearly see an agenda. You can clearly see an agenda on the radio. Okay, some of these messages, even in a therapeutic way, could be not necessarily the best for our people, especially our young people. You know, depending on what this music is or what the message is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So you know, when Nas said hip hop was dead, he got a lot of ridicule from that. You know, a lot of ridicule came from the social media because the cats on the street knew exactly what he meant.
Mm.
Which leads me to ask this to the panel: would you call the music that we're listening to now, the Nas X's and all of the names that you named as the new people? Do you think it's fair to the art form to call them music hip hop, or should it have its own name? Because technically, for what the five elements that hip hop is created and made from, that's not what's going on right now in this music of today that's still being labeled allegedly hip hop. I'll wait.
Could I speak on this? This is dear and true to me. Andrew, you say you were a minister, right?
Yeah.
All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is how I wanted to be a rapper. And I moved to New York, and I was good. But what I started to notice was that it wasn't spiritually good. And I could see it. I was around guys that were rapping about flipping keys and shooting. And I'm like, you're not doing this. Why are you even rapping about this? Do you understand what you're saying? And then they would tease me because they're like, you're cat bat in the hat. And I'm like, but I'm talking about real things here. So I went through a real, I don't even know what to explain, where it was like, I can't do this anymore. And I started looking at how corporate America started just coming in, and it was Kool-Aid rap commercials, McDonald's rap commercials. And I'm like, this is the same music my mom thought was saying, disrespect your mother, beat up your brother. Now everybody's on it. Now my culture, this was my culture. Like, you watch them karate movies, this was my karate. I'm in my 36 chamber. And I'm like, it's not the same anymore. So when you talk about Little Nas X, I want to go back to when Jamar said that's not for you. This rap represents what's going on. And Andrew, we need to sit down with Nas X and say, brother, what makes you and do this? Wear these weird costumes? Like, what's going on? If this is hip hop, why is this hip hop? Tell us why this is hip hop. I'm gonna tell you, Busy Bone was the first rapper to come out and say he was molested. That's when I knew hip hop was therapeutic. Now he done went all the way on another tangent. I think when the alcohol is involved, if y'all pay attention to these commercials, these alcohol commercials, there's always a black person. Snoop is always trying to push this lifestyle that is not realistic for people that are in the hip hop community. So we gotta bring it back to that. Like, let's talk to Little Nas X. Let's not shun him. Let's talk to these mumble rappers and say, have you ever heard of Schoolie D? He was the first hardcore rapper. People don't realize he influenced the West Coast. He's from Philly, Jamar.
6 a.m. He was
okay, man. Looking at my Gucci, it's about that time.
Right.
Rap saved my life. All right, I'm done.
All right. Can I just
busting that game?
Can I
people always say,
if I could just interject here, and this is a good dialogue. I think some points were raised. I do like the point that Brother Dawu said about it not being called hip hop. I think there needs to be another genre on top of hip hop. I think we've entered a phase of, most music genres get about a good, 50, 60 year run. You can name them all. Everything must die, right? Eventually. Unfortunately, things morph into other things. That's just life. But to also answer the Little Nas X question, not question, but statement, we've had LGBTQ plus rappers since the beginning of time.
Exactly.
When you look at Africa Bambaataa, what's going on there, I think that's
Facts.
more, and that's somebody from, an era before me, right? People knew what was going on with that the whole time and were quiet. I think more light needs to be shined on that than what Lil Nas X is doing. We've had LGBTQ rappers, like I said, since the beginning of the time. In terms of the dress, when you look at the way he dresses compared to the way Grandmaster Flash and the Furious 5 was dressing, is similar. When you look at the way the Isley brothers were dressing in the 70s, it's similar.
Prince.
Prince. You name it. We've had hip hop flamboyant acts since the beginning of hip hop who dressed in ways during that time might have been a little more with the times or appropriate, or people, turned a blind eye to it. But we've had LGBTQ plus rappers. We have LGBTQ plus people in our families. They exist. He's providing a lane and voice for that. Do I have to agree with, not agree? Do I have to love his music, or am I bumping it? No. But, there's a lane. He found it. And, and in terms of I think, all right, and one last point I'll make before I let others get in. And I think, and this is an interesting point too. Right now, you don't really need a record label to blow up anymore. These kids are making music in their bedrooms, and the music is going online. So you skipping the whole record label getting, pillaged by a record label and getting signed into a 360 deal. And it goes from your bedroom to your audience directly.
SoundCloud.
There you go. Thank you, brother. That's what I was looking for, through SoundCloud. So I think they're finding ways to jump the corporate sponsors and things like that. And what I'm worried about more than anything with hip hop right now is the drug culture. But I grew up in the drug dealer era. Now we're in the drug addict era. What's better? I don't know.
I'll jump in real quick. And
thank you.
I just wanted to speak to Post in Politics' original question. And I would say that it still should be called hip hop. And here's my, thought process behind it. When we look at the origins of the genre of hip hop, it is a collection of sounds. So the sampling, right? And using older music to create something new. That's hip hop is born based on a variety of different aspects of music. You look at soul music, you look at sampling reggae, they even sample rock and roll tracks. So if you can pull from all of these different genres, what makes us say that the Lil Nas X's are not hip hop?
I hear exactly what you said. Yeah, I think you're talking about the evolution, how it evolves, correct? Yeah.
Right.
So?
Yeah.
Okay, so now let me say this. Let me speak on that. I'm gonna say two fly, funky, fresh things, and then I'm gonna slide and let y'all rock. You dig? The first thing we ain't never have, or not that I remember of, we ain't had no rappers that was giving the devil a lap dance. Like, I don't remember no satanic rappers back in our times. I'm not gonna say they was not any, but I do know for a fact that was not in the forefront of hip hop. Now, when you talk about music evolution, I can understand where you're coming from, but I'm going to show you a slight where I beg to differ. Reggae music, dancehall music, classical music, country music, they have all evolved, but they still evolve within their gender or sound or category, for a lack of a better word. There's a lot of intelligent people on here, so I know y'all know where I'm coming from. The thing about hip hop, though, the same thing of what makes it is almost what breaks it. Like you just said, sir, hip hop take from everything, right? Mm-hmm. And in one moment you could say, so that's how it evolves. But if we look at what the word evolve means, once you evolve from something, the original thing that was no longer exists. You can't say man came from apes, quote unquote, the Darwin theory, when the ape is still sitting right there. You can't say that all of this new stuff is hip hop when it's not going by what the code of hip hop is. It's not going by the architectural elements that make hip hop. If it evolved, like you're saying, then it evolved to something new, and it needs to be called whatever that new thing is.
Excuse me. All right, so I'm yes, everybody on here is intelligent, but I think we need to stop using the word hip hop. That's not what we called it when we was out there battling and breakdancing. You look up hip hop, it says hip hop music, also known as rap music, is a genre of popular music developed in the United States by inner city African Americans and Latino Americans in the Bronx borough of New York City. I'm from Washington, D.C. I've been rapping since 1980, whatever. Hip hop is everywhere. Jamar, you said you've been rapping in Philly. The problem is we have never took ownership of our culture and defined it. We allowed them to define it for us. That's why Lil Nas X can say I'm hip hop. I used to argue with people all the time and say Bone Thugs is R&B. They're singing. That's not rap music. But everybody's like, nah, that's hip hop. No, rap is like hat, bat, go get that cat. That's what it started out.
I hear you, but
Yeah.
if rap is only one aspect of hip hop, right? Like you have different forms, and so
they've been on for half an hour.
Even in rapping, right? Let's take rapping for instance, Marcus.
Mm-hmm.
I can rap, I can sing in a way that sounds like I'm rapping.
Right.
So does that, like, because it's not the original style of rap that hip hop was founded upon, it doesn't make it any less like authentic rap. I'm just engaging in that activity in a different way.
I say if you are saying hip hop, you can do whatever you want to do. You can fly and ballerina, but when we talking about rap, we're not doing all that crazy stuff.
Let me interject for a minute. We want to thank David for coming on. David is in the UK, so there is a significant time difference. David, thank you so much for making it on. David, we
Hello,
are
sir.
in a tell listeners about you.
Okay, all right. I don't want to eat up all the time, and I know that you guys are halfway through the show. So my apologies. I got the timings a little bit wrong.
That's okay.
But thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
Awesome.
To sum up, I'm a singer-songwriter who does. I suppose I do rap as well. I do spit bars, as they would say, as well. But I'm also a youth worker. I've been doing youth work for 30 years now, working with the most marginalized, disenfranchised young people across mainly London, but other parts of the UK as well. So I'm hoping that what I can contribute is an insight into how music can influence young people and the culture of young people, but also act as a healing mechanism for young people. And I've seen that in lots of different aspects through both of the dual roles that I play in terms of what I do. So yeah, so that's kind of an introduction to me.
Thank you. So you said something important. It's a healing. It serves as a healing tool. Explain that. How give us some examples. How we have two other clinicians on. So how is it a healing tool for our youth, as well as Jamar, I know, works with Black men as well. So tell us something about that. Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm going to start with something that it makes it really clear, vivid. And that is, at the moment, I'm now self-employed. I've set up my own company, which is a charitable organization working with at-risk young people, mainly young people referred from social services, people in foster care, people that are leaving prison, you know, that kind of, those kinds of groups of young people. So in my last role, I was managing the youth service in one of the most prolific young offender institutions in the UK, and a Feltham Young Offenders Institution. So we have young men that are 15 to 18 years old that are incarcerated for some of the most heinous crimes that you can imagine. Right. And one of the things that was quite prevalent within that setting was a lot of them loved music. They loved rapping. And it was I actually set up 2 studios in the prison before I left. And the young people, though they were doing this drill thing, they were on the drill thing, and it was a lot of violence and aggressive. I'm going to stab this up, and I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to sell all these drugs. And there was a lot of that negative stuff going on. But every now and then you would find a young person that also wanted to tell a story about what they were going through, what the experience was growing up in the circumstances. And that for me was a way of expressing the pain, what they're going through. It was a way of releasing what their experiences are. And actually it made them feel good. It gave them a voice. Yeah. So I could see it's like therapy. It literally is therapy. Writing a song, getting the feelings out on paper, sharing it with someone, that's therapy. You can't deny it. It's therapy, straight. Right. So that for me is like a clear example.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah. David.
No, please. Oh. I mean, that for me sums it up. And it's not just in the prison settings, it's in working with young people leaving care. It's working in the schools with young people that are transitioning from year 6 to year 7, and they're struggling with that transition. There's so many different settings where young people can use the music as a tool for release, for expression, to clarify, and to question, or to provoke a conversation. Yeah. And it's all learning for them and for us.
Right.
It's powerful.
Yeah.
Could I demonstrate that for David?
Wait a minute. 1 second, Marcus.
Yeah.
I have someone on Twitter. They're saying, this is to our clinicians. I wonder if many therapists actually do counseling sessions in the studio with musically talented clients. I think that would be a dope way to do an appointment. So what do our clinicians say about that?
That's essentially what the Cypher does, the support group that I created. It can be used with anyone, whether you are musically inclined or not, but it can be more effective for folks who are musically inclined, because what we do is sit down, we identify some emotional health concept. Let's say it's anger. I give just some basic facts on what the definition of anger is, how it is expressed amongst different people and different cultures. Then we listen to 2 pre-selected songs that feature commentary about anger. And I go in and annotate the lyrics. So as we're listening, we're also looking and we're analyzing the lyrics together. We have conversations about how that artist is expressing their anger in this particular song. Then we talk about positive ways or more healthy ways to express those emotions. And then at the end, we freestyle, cut on an instrumental, and we just go in. And that serves 2 purposes. One, it allows folks who have bars to have the platform to engage in the art form. But secondly, it allows those participants to connect therapeutic aspects of this work to actually engaging in rap. So now they see like, wow, not only do I enjoy rapping, but it's also helpful for me to express my emotions, like David was saying. This allows me to talk about what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, to engage in mindfulness, because in freestyling, you're really connected to what you're thinking, what you're seeing around you, what someone may be saying or doing. So it really just incorporates the beauty of hip hop and also the beauty of therapy.
Jamar, is this the same thing as narrative therapy?
That's a good question. I would say it's all similar, right? It's all about getting expressions out there within your comfortable art form.
Right.
Whether it's narrative therapy, whether it's hip hop therapy, whatever it is. And Andrew did a great job of talking about CBT earlier, cognitive behavior therapy. And really, I think even, and this is a term that we learn as clinicians, is strengths-based perspective, right? So if I know I'm working with a certain age group, or a certain from a certain culture, um, your strength might be in you writing rhymes, or you rapping, or you freestyling. That's basically kind of what a strengths-based perspective is in a long about way. So I would say, yeah, it's similar. It's all similar.
Okay.
Just really quickly, I say it's definitely narrative therapy, and the only reason why I'm very like specific on that is because when I use narrative therapy in treatment, I may refer a client to a book or an article that talks about whatever issues that this client may be experiencing. So they are reading this narrative to make connections to their own experience. Reading hip hop lyrics is no different. If I go and suggest that a client listens to a Nas song, and I encourage them to read the lyrics of that song because it connects to their lived experience. Well, if that ain't narrative therapy, then I don't know what is. And really, it's a much more effective style of narrative therapy for the population that we're serving. So I would say, just agreeing with you, Jamar, that it definitely is narrative therapy.
Yeah.
One of our listeners said hip hop and rap has become therapy and a healing release for all Black men, regardless of where you come from or what you've been through. Thank you, Vernon, for that. David, how do you all take the children that you work with into the studios?
Most definitely. As I was saying before, that when I was working at Feltham, we actually set up 2 little mini studios in the prison on 2 of the wings, and we'd use it like as a reward for good behavior. Obviously, we're dealing with young people that have got some very challenging behavior. So, in terms of if they had behaved well, we would take them to the wing that has the recording studio, and we would give them the opportunity to create something in the studio. So we definitely use that. And we also use it in the community. It's something that a lot of youth clubs now do. In fact, my organization, which is called Forward Ever Inclusive Education, what we do now is we've actually written a 6-week workshop where we teach young people. It's called an MC lyric writing workshop, and it's about teaching young people, first of all, the history of where spoken word and the whole thing started, going back to the African griots, going all the way back to where it really started, and teaching them this is where it's, even James Brown, that, some of his style, some of the way that he flowed, sometimes it was like rapping more so than singing. So we take them all the way back to the beginning. Then we bring them into a section where we're looking at, okay, so what genres are you aware of and what genres do you like? And we explore all the different genres, hip hop, dancehall, grime, drill, all the different styles. And then we say, right, so what's your favorite style? And then after that, once they've identified the style that they like, we get them to write a song and we take them into the studio so they can record. And so definitely using studios. It's a great tool.
I can relate to the therapeutical part of where they coming from an artist perspective very strongly. Now let's just talk about therapy and psychological analyzation. Anyway, how you have problems mentally, or you have things that you're going through mentally or spiritually. You may have someone that tell you to go talk to a psychiatrist, right? Go talk or see a psychiatrist, right? Okay, you ever heard that people say sometimes people can talk better to strangers than they can talk to someone that they know, right? That's been said. So as an artist, where hip hop becomes therapeutic is that, Instead of going to a psychiatrist to talk, you're talking to the world through the music that you're writing and making.
Mm-hmm.
This is the therapeuticness of hip hop through an artist's perspective.
Right.
So
Right.
I like to say that I agree wholeheartedly with David, and I can't see through these shades. My power source is about to cut off, but
Okay.
all of you guys are right on point.
For those that want to explore hip hop therapy, how do you suggest that they go about it? Anyone can take this.
Can I say something, please? And I didn't get to finish my point with Andrew about the difference between rap and hip hop. It goes back to what Dave says. It starts with that drum. You feel that drum. You speak to that drum. You get in tune with your emotions. Everything around you that is bothering you comes out. I would like to suggest to you clinicians, instead of letting these people hear somebody else's pain, just put the beat on and then let them talk. Because maybe me listening to Lil Nas X rapping about the keys he just lost might influence my mind and have me thinking in an imaginary world that is not mine. I'm just relating to it because of the beat. It comes from the drum. That's why I say rap is just speaking to that drum. I just want to say something. This is something I wrote. Y'all can laugh or whatever. It's a rap poem, whatever. It says, let my words of confusion make sense at the expense of common sense. We've been indoctrinated to be dense. Just another link missing from the fence. Choose athleticism over intelligence. So we speak with no confidence. To those that speak conference, I live with the truth of no sponsorship. And that's what I'm gonna leave you with. Put the beat on. Let them talk. Let them get in tune with their emotions and who they are and what's really bothering them. Not what the industry dictates what their problems is. You're not urban. You're not hood. When I was rapping, we wasn't saying hood. That's what corporate America created. And they took over our culture. And now they're controlling our minds. If you guys are using hip hop to help these people, start with the beat. Take it back to the village. Before we went to war, we heard drums. When we celebrated, we heard drums. When it was sorrow or sadness, we heard drums. Take it back to the beat. Thank you.
Take it back to that boom bap. I feel you.
Anyone else want to touch on the point of exploring hip hop? How would they go about exploring hip hop therapy specifically?
So, go ahead, Post.
I was just going to iterate on the fact that, is again, you said it too, and then of course my brother just said it. The music, the therapeuticness of the music, what makes it therapeutic is the message. Like that drum and talking on that drum is just like you sitting in the couch of a therapist's office at a a psychologist's office. Excuse my talking. But it's the same thing. It's that the microphone is the psychologist, and the therapy is the rap of you saying or talking to that mic about what's going on in life. Now, what Marcus is saying is, when corporate gets involved and changes the narrative, how therapeutic can it be? Now, listen, we got to separate therapy from brainwashing. It's a difference. You did? If the message is not authentic and being controlled, now it's no longer therapy. You being brainwashed, and that can affect the behavior of how people's minds and things and action is too. But when it's your voice, your culture, unalterated, exactly. Now, on Possum Politics, my YouTube show, when we cook, we do a lot of therapy. The reason why we do the therapy is because a lot of times cooking food, when you listening to music, most of the time you eating. And when you eating, most of the time you either listening to music or you're watching TV, which has music on it. So that's the hip hop plays a strong part in the YouTube show Possum Politics. But the reason why we use hip hop, and I'm saying hip hop specifically, it's not just rap music. We don't use just any old rap music. We use a specific style of rap music. It's because we're trying to therapeutically get a message across to the people while we're cooking these urban meals. And in that music, a lot of those songs we use have messages. KRS-One, J. Cole, Kendrick Lamar. These are people that are artists. And after now, notice now, when we talk about these type of artists, they don't get as much pull or media push like a Nas X or Yo Money Bags or stuff like that. Like again, because like I told you, the message is being narrative. You know, they trying to control the narrative. But as far as when it comes to therapy through hip hop, we got to study what are the types of music in hip hop that we're using for therapy. You get what I'm saying? Dawu Shahid,
yes.
Possum Politics.
So for those that want to explore hip hop therapy, how do you suggest that our clinician, how do you suggest our young men how do you suggest our young men go about
exploring therapy through hip hop?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So if they are, I guess it depends. If it's a person that is a clinician, if they're interested in like pursuing therapy, it's a couple of different books that I would recommend. One by Dr. Raphael Travis. It's a book called The Healing Power of Hip Hop. It's really, really good content that he provides there. I also would suggest looking up any work from Dr. Ralph Elegant, who has wrote several books and articles talking specifically about how to incorporate hip hop into your treatment as a therapist. There's also a book by a gentleman by the name of Marcus Reeves called Somebody Scream. This talks about more so how rap music rose to prominence after the Black Power movement. But I think this is really helpful for connecting hip hop and mental health because of the struggle and the desperation folks in the Black and Brown community experienced during that time, and why the Black Power movement was a reflection of the anger and the frustration that folks were experiencing, and how hip hop was birthed out of that. So it gives some context to this rage that a lot of people are speaking to. So I think those are just a couple of books and folks that folks can look into to gain more information about this idea of connecting mental health and hip hop.
Thank you. Jamar?
Actually, Andrew is the person who knows about the subject a little more. So I refer all those books. I just copied them all down. So thank you for sharing that information. So I'll be learning more about this topic in a more real way. So yeah, I'll lend to brother Andrew.
Awesome. David.
Yeah, I think that Dr. Travis, I was on a panel with him recently, actually, and I believe he's like the number one. He's the leading person for hip hop therapy in America. So I would echo what Andrew has said, and that definitely look into whatever literature he has written. In the UK, hip hop therapy is a relatively new concept, and I'm working with someone. I'm actually on a board for an organization called Hip Hop Heals.
Yes.
And the person that is Kiz, her name is Kiz Banger. She is the person that set the whole thing up, but I'm on her board, and that's how I've kind of got involved in the whole hip hop thing as a therapy. My suggestion, and this is going to kind of connect with what Marcus was saying earlier about kind of getting people to express themselves. I think therapy is about facing up to being real with yourself. Yeah. I feel like therapy is about being real with yourself. And if it's about being real with yourself, whatever you're expressing needs to be coming from within. It needs to be coming from you. It can't be coming from anybody else. And you can use the instrumental of hip hop as a vehicle for people to jump on and to use to express themselves. But what they're saying, ideally, if they're dealing with therapy, should be coming from them. It should be about their situation, their experience, their life, their struggle, and how they're feeling and how they're coping with that. So for me, anybody that wants to get involved in hip hop therapy, if they've had an adverse childhood experience that has traumatized them, or if they've had an adult experience that's traumatized them, if they're ready to face up to that and express it and explore it, and they like music, hip hop therapy or musical therapy is a great way to do that.
And Dave, Andrew, let me pose this question to you. Like, really, when we say hip hop therapy, what are we really trying to achieve? Is it control? Because you listen to let's take Kurt Cobain, for instance. Nirvana killed himself. How come there's in rock and roll therapy, heavy metal therapy? You know, why are we so afraid of hip hop? Because that's not ours. They created that. So if you're going in, Dave, to what you said, to help somebody that's really hurting, that never had a voice, you got to say, this ain't about hip hop. This is about you.
That's right.
And if it becomes a hit, okay.
Yeah.
But we need you to get in touch with you so that we can deal with that pain so that you can move on.
100. It's broad for me. It's broader than hip hop.
Right, and you guys are doing it. For me, I'm just thinking and talking. You're actually doing it. So I want to give you as much, advice I can on this idea. Yes, hip hop. Well, rap can cure pain.
And I would just add, if you see a lack of something in your community, then build it, whatever it is, and to think of it even broader than that. We got, the diaspora represented because we have brothers from America on this call. We have brothers from England on this call, all doing similar work. So I say whatever it is, even beyond just hip hop and therapy, if you find a need, whatever it is, whether it's cooking and therapy or hip hop and therapy or whatever it is, if you see a void in your community, then create what you don't see.
Awesome. Guys, that is our time. But before we go, tell listeners how they can connect with you on your socials. Briefly tell us, our listeners, how they can connect with you, starting with Marcus.
Just tune in to Nika's show. I'm on our show quite often.
Thank you so much.
If you want to see me, tune into I Change the Narrative, because that is my goal in life.
Thank you. Jamar, how can people reach you if they want to connect with you?
TheVillagePath.org is the website. The Village Path is the Instagram, the Twitter, and the Facebook. So it's THE Village VILLAGE Path PATH. And thank you for having me.
No problem. Daoud.
You can get in contact with us at Woo Dogs, Pots and Politics on YouTube, on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram is Pots and Politics. And you can contact us directly at potsandpolitics@gmail.com. Thank you for having me on the show. It's been a blessing, and blessings to all of y'all.
No problem. Thank you. Andrew.
You can find me at I Am Pastor Drew on Instagram, just regular Andrew Watkins on Facebook, and my website is andrewwatkins.net, where I just offer different information about the connection between mental health, hip hop, and Christianity. So thanks for having me, and best wishes to everybody in their personal endeavors. David, I'm gonna you've inspired me to work on my, UK accent. So I'm gonna go to the booth, you know what I'm saying, and see what I can cook up.
You've got it, man. I heard you. I went on your page and I saw you spitting some serious bars, so I know you've got it already.
Yes, David.
Okay. So in terms of my musical endeavors, I'm David Boomer, and so you can find me on Instagram as David @David Boomer. And I've got a Facebook page as well. But for the stuff that I'm doing in terms of working with young people. I have an organization called Forward Ever Inclusive Education. So you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, on those. And also, it would be rude of me not to mention to check out Hip Hop Heals as an organization as well, which is also on Facebook and Instagram as well. Heals is spelled with a Z. Hip Hop Heals with a Z at the end.
Awesome. Thank you for allowing me to showcase your stories, for doing your part in changing the narrative, and lastly, for keeping your commitment by being a part of the show. That means a lot. If you've enjoyed the show, please let us know. We would love to shout you out and post your comments. If you or someone you know who is changing the narrative, please have them contact us at iChangeTheNarrative@gmail.com. We would love to share your stories. And thanks again. Meet us here next Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for listening. And don't forget to check out sossd.co. We are powered by Sauce Grooming Essentials. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.